GWS have defeated Essendon in the VFL in a pretty high standard match at Windy Hill, 101-80. We're going to go through everything you need to know about it right now.
We've always had the passion and the iron will.
So it was a pretty high standard game in the VFL. Lots of end-to-end goals played on a nice winter's afternoon here in Melbourne at Windy Hill. GWS just getting over the line. It was pretty close before that. Essendon did lead by about 3 goals at one point, but GWS eventually got on top. Obviously, the Bombers are a little bit undermanned. We only had the 7 players who are the 7 AFL listed players. There was a first game, and Noah Scott playing his first VFL game, and he kicked 3 goals, so well done to him. But the 7 listed players is what we really want to know about in this game and what it means for their prospects, potentially in regards to delistings and things like that, because let's face it, if you're not in the team at the moment, either you're unlucky and you deserve to be in the team, or perhaps you haven't quite got what it takes. So we're just going to go through some of the players. Alwyn Davey actually played pretty well in this game. Alwyn Davey had one of his best games of the year. It's looking tough that he can remain on the list. He's going to be 22 years old when the new year ticks over, and there's just probably too many other players ahead of him for him to remain on the list at this point. But he's been playing out of the half-back line for, well, definitely the last 2 games. He was playing there the last VFL game I saw, and he was playing there again today. And he had 14 disposals, 2 marks, 2 tackles, 2 clearances, 2 score involvements, 3 contested possessions, and also 3 intercept possessions. And he was getting quite a bit of the ball, and he had, well, you'd have to say, one of his better games of the year. Archer Day-Wicks really struggled. I've barely noticed him at all. He did hobble off towards the end. It might be a little bit of a soft tissue injury. But I guess my problem with Day-Wicks is he just doesn't seem to impact the game. And he just had the 6 disposals, 1 mark, 1 tackle, 2 clearances, 1 score involvement, and 2 contested possessions. So what this means for him next year, obviously he's still young. And I know Brad Scott rates him highly in terms of his skills, but sometimes it's not just about their skills. It's about their, ball nous. It's about how they can, impact the game. It's whether they can find the ball. Often you can have players that are not particularly skilled, but they have a football brain. They know how to involve themselves in the game. So what this means for Day-Wicks, this was, a pretty average game. And I doubt he'll be playing in the senior team before the end of the year. If you like this channel, I always try to get these videos up as soon as possible. Please hit the like and subscribe button. About 65% of you watching this are not subscribed, so I'd love it if you could do that. It helps the YouTube algorithm. It doesn't cost a cent, and it only takes 1 second to do so. So if you could hit that subscribe button right now, I would really appreciate it. So the best player on the ground for the Bombers, certainly out of the listed players anyway, was Saad El-Hawli. He kicked 3 goals. 1 very good goal, which you can see here from a piece of play. Now you can see here Jaden Nguyen smothers the ball in the goal square, or there's a GWS player about to kick the goal, and Jayden Nguyen does a really nice bit of play and then links up with a chain of possession, and it ends up with a nice goal to Saad El-Hawli. He had 17 disposals, 6 marks, a tackle, a clearance, 1 score involvement. That doesn't include his goals, obviously. 6 contested possessions, and also 5 intercept possessions. And it felt like he had more than 17 possessions, to be honest, because it's not just about the possessions, it's about, are they high impact? And from what I could gather just from watching the game on the live stream, he was a high impact player. Just from observing the game, I thought he was easily our best player, certainly our best listed player. There were a couple of other good players. Jackson Haitley played pretty well. Noah Scott, first game, kicked 3 goals. But of the listed players, I thought Saad was our best. Kale Gerine had 8 disposals, 4 marks, a tackle, 2 clearances, 1 score involvement, and 3 contested possessions. He also had a few hit-outs, and he helped out in the ruck when the other ruckman for the Bombers, Monteith, wasn't rucking. So he's a pretty versatile player. I guess you would categorise him a little bit like Peter Wright, even though his body shape is a bit different. He's a bit chunkier than Peter Wright, not as lean or tall. Well, he is tall, but he's not, not quite as big as 2 metre Peter. But he is the type of player that can play in the ruck and key forward, but he's still got a bit of development left in him. What we saw from the AFL game yesterday, you don't want to put tall players into the game before they're ready. Sometimes midfielders, you can give an 18, 19-year-old midfielder a game. The midfielder is a different position. But we saw with Vigo, for example, giving them games before they're sort of physically ready can actually be detrimental to their development. So I'd like to see Kale Gerine continue to ply away in the reserves. I'd like him to stay on the list at the end of this year and into next year. And then we'll probably assess him next year, maybe even towards the end of next year. And if he can get those 40 to 50 VFL games behind him, get his body built up and developed and get a bit of bulk in him, he could be an important player for us. Certainly, he didn't really impact this game, but he's actually been an improved player in the VFL during the second half of the season. So there is something to look forward to there, although he didn't impact this game really much. Menzie was probably our second best player of the listed players anyway, behind El-Hawli. He had 14 possessions, 4 marks, 5 tackles, 1 clearance, 1 score involvement, 3 contested possessions, and he kicked 2 goals. So Menzie's out of contract at the end of this year, so it'd be interesting to see what's going on here, because obviously the difference in quality between him and, let's say, Oscar Smart, playing in the other small forward role at the moment, is not much. I mean, Smart's only played 2 games, was playing VFL earlier in the year. It's just really a matter of who do you pick to play that position. And, Smart's done okay, I guess, the last couple of weeks. Menzie is just out of favour at the moment. And I don't know if there's room for both of those players on the list at the moment. At the end of the day, we're going to have to cut 8 or 9 players. And Menzie probably is at that stage where he's 23 years old. He's probably not going to get any better. Had a good game today, though. So, look, if you're picking on form, if form was your metric, you would probably bring him in for Smart, even though I liked Smart's game yesterday. He laid some hard tackles and had the 3 shots on goal. They just all missed. But look, there was nothing wrong with Menzie's game today. 14 possessions, 2 goals. Probably our second best listed player. Jaden Nguyen playing out of the back line. Showed you that highlight earlier, linking up and, creating that goal for Saad El-Hawli. He had 9 possessions, 5 marks, a tackle, 0 clearances, 1 score involvement, 2 contested possessions, but importantly, he had 5 intercept possessions. I probably noticed him more than the stats would indicate, and I guess that's one of the things when you get intercept possessions, they're what I regard as high impact possessions. You're taking the ball off the opposition. That's a high value possession. So half of his possessions were intercept possessions. So that's a positive, and I actually rated his game probably better than what the stats would indicate. I thought he was probably our third best player of the listed players behind El-Hawli and Menzie. And look, you can't rule out a shot for him in the seniors before the end of the year. I would say it's more unlikely than likely, but I'd say probably next year is probably more his thing if he can remain on the list. And it will be a battle for him. He's obviously, he's one of those players that's been given jobs to do. He's not blessed with an immense amount of natural ability, but he does seem to have a reasonable football brain. So, and he does seem quite committed and dedicated. So I thought his game today was certainly, of merit and definitely deserves some praise. The last player, Rhys Unwin, who struggled to impact the game. He had 9 possessions, 2 marks, 2 tackles, 1 score involvement and 3 contested possessions. He's a small player, midfield type. He probably needs to get the ball a bit more, I think, before they consider him for the seniors. He averages about 12 possessions in the VFL. So, look, I don't think Rhys will be getting a senior berth by the end of the year. That would be my prediction. I don't think he will be, and they're going to obviously have to make a decision on him. So did any of you guys watch the game? Let me know if you did. Is there anything you think I missed? I think it was a pretty reasonable performance in a high standard game. Certainly Saad El-Hawli is the highlight there. And importantly as well, Saad was playing on the wing. You can see from some of the footage from the centre bounces that I've uploaded there, you can see him number 41 lining up on the wing. Now in the seniors, Lawal has been lining up on the wing. So you don't need to be a genius to work out that Lawal probably was a bit down in the senior AFL game last night against the Giants, only having the 4 possessions and not really impacting the game that much. It seems to be a no-brainer that Saad El-Hawli will come in for Lawal next week. I think you can take that to the bank. Don't quote me on it, but that would be my prediction. I'm about 90% sure that Saad will come in and Lawal will probably come out of the side. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.